and welcome to the Trans Forum. Again, our second episode, where we bring together a panel of trans people and talk about topics that relate to the trans community. In this episode, we're going to welcome three of our previous guests, people who we have loved having on, and we're really looking forward to discussing the topic tonight. In order of appearance on our channel, so that we can be a little bit fair as far as who goes when, right? We're going to start off with Jue Meili. Jue Meili, her name means Pearl Beautiful, and she definitely is. She's 73 years old, and we would never guess that for sure. She only came out last year, though, and already, wow, she's stunning. She passes so well, and at 5'8" and 140 pounds. And Jue Meili, you might have to help me remember now, what size shoe do you wear?
Oh, I wear size 6 to 8 women clothing and size 9 to 10 women's shoes.
That kind of makes some of us a little bit jealous. Yeah, absolutely. We're glad to have her on here. She's very active, likes to dance, and she's been playing badminton a lot lately. Next up, we had Madison. Madison is a graphic designer, and she had a hard time coming out to her family, like most of us, but she is also absolutely gorgeous and passes so well, which might be a part of the reason why she got 11,000 views and is definitely our highest count on the Trans Canada project. We're very glad to have her with us again today. And last, but of course not least, is Seth. And Seth he built and runs the Out Loud Youth Center in North Bay. And he's a very busy person. We're glad to have him with us tonight to talk about the subject. He's very active in helping youth all over the North, really, because it's not just people from North Bay who come to the center, but from all over. And it's a real model for other places as well. And it's giving the LGBTQ youth a real support that they need. And wonderful, wonderful work. And of course, there's Kelly and Carrie, and together we are the Trans Canada Project.
Trans Canada Project.
In this episode, we're going to talk about passing. In the trans community, of course, passing is, what it means is to appear as much in line with your authentic self as possible. Hopefully to the point where people see you as that gender, as opposed to another gender. And maybe even they would never guess you were trans. That's sort of the holy grail, I suppose, for a lot of people. But we want to talk a little bit about what it means to pass for us personally, why we feel like we need to pass, and what kinds of things maybe are related to being trans, and what kind of things are maybe just what every woman or every man actually just kind of, has, right? Wanting to fit in or things like that. So let me just open it up. We don't have to pick anybody in particular, but if one of you would like to chime in, why do you think trans people need to pass?
I don't think there's like an easy answer for that. I know it's important for a lot of people to want to pass as the gender that they identify as. And then there's like the gender fluid people, non-binary people who I think I don't want to like speak for them, but I think it might be easier for them to sort of feel comfortable in their own skin more often than like trans people who are actively trying to pass as the gender that they feel they are.
Well, being the sole non-binary, more gender fluid person in the panel here, I could definitely say I would agree with that. I don't feel quite the same need to pass. In fact, for me, I think it's more about just making sure that I don't pass completely as male as opposed to trying to appear completely female. But yeah, absolutely. Anybody else have something to chime in?
Yes, ever since my early childhood days, I've always wanted to become a beautiful female, but I realized there are lots of challenges that a trans woman, myself and others, included all the trans women, face certain challenges before they can really pass as a beautiful female. In the early stages of transitioning, either after coming out or before coming out, a lot of trans women may face challenges of balding or short hair and need to use wigs. Actually, I've bought over 10 wigs, which I never used. But then I've seen some trans women who have not gone through laser and electrolysis and still show beard shadow and hairy arms and legs. And these are the challenges that they are still facing to overcome to pass as a female. And I've seen some people who use a lot of makeup, not looking natural. As for me, I did use a lot of makeup when I went to the masquerade ball, and my daughter, who was a beauty salon specialist, she helped me with professional makeup, and I won third prize in the masquerade ball in 2019. But since that time, I've never really worn any more makeup. I go out in my normal suntan face with just lipstick on. And I don't believe in makeup, and because I don't like the time it takes to remove makeup at night. But I understand lots of trans women, they have the need to use makeup to look more passable as a female.
And Seth, dealing with kids too. Like I wonder. I mean, you can answer the question for yourself as well, but I'm wondering if you see a difference between some of us who are older and needing to pass, and whether the younger generation still feels the same kind of need to pass that perhaps some of us do, or if they're just able maybe more to accept themselves the way they are.
That's the way you've expressed it there is almost perfect in ways that what we're dealing with. So in the older generation, I mean, I'm going to be 47. Growing up, it was almost like I didn't have any sort of outlet or relatable sources when it came to lesbian, gays, anything, trans, nothing. Now I feel like, something Madison mentioned was that you have a lot of gender fluid youth. And so it's very easy for them to express their masculine and feminine sides without having to really change their identity per se. Some of us that are trying to pass as male or female, we put a lot of effort into making sure that we're passing for safety, I feel, not any other reason. We might have other reasons, but for myself, my personal self is safety. I don't want to walk into a man's washroom and create that unsafe feeling for myself. Where I have kids that I deal with that will come in and go into whatever washroom they want and just not have, they're just that, it's not pride. It's that level of safety and confidence that they feel in how they look, I guess. And I've struggled with that. I mean, I've always been a very tomboy type of person. Then I went into, understanding I was attracted to women. So I thought I was a lesbian for many, many years. And then you get those subtitles of butch or, all the other names that, lesbians fall under. And I just didn't feel fit for any of those. So, I began to do my own research. And again, just like Jue was saying, was like over the years, we've gone through so many different movements. And, there's a lot of fear-based transitioning happening. And I think we're in that time now where some of those fear-based transitions years ago are opening up a little bit more. And, we're thinking we have to live our best life and our happy life for the next years to come because we're wasting time, in fear. And I think a lot of the kids that I deal with they're excited, they're happy, and there are little voices moving forward. So I feel confident that we're creating, those little lights of hope for our future generation of children because they are very proud in who they are. And yes, don't get me wrong, there are kids out there that are still struggling because they don't have the support. But if we're creating spaces like mine or spaces like other spaces that kind of give those children a voice and a safe place, they're going to continue to grow just like all of us have.
Mm-hmm. Madison, how do you feel about that? Like about the safety thing? Do you feel like some of the passing that you try to do is for safety, or is it more about doing it for yourself?
I think a lot of it was for doing it for myself. There is obviously the safety factor that's in there, but I experienced a lot of gender dysphoria, and I think that's sort of where it comes down to doing it for yourself, just to like make yourself feel better. I know that voice training can be really intimidating, and that can also be like one of the biggest giveaways or dysphoric sort of elements of transitioning, because having a really deep voice or having like a really high pitched voice and trying to change that to be like the complete opposite is a lot of work, and it takes time and practice. And a lot of people are just too intimidated to actually start. I know that it took me a long time. I would often practice in my car. Anytime I was alone, I would practice. I never did like voice training therapy with anybody. Like I never got the training with anyone, mainly because it was way too expensive. So I did all personal training, and my voice used to be like extremely deep. Like I used to sing bass in a barbershop chorus. My voice was that deep, and I see that there's a lot of people like online, and even some friends that I have who are trans who feel like they don't have any hope for being able to get their voice to like a feminine range without surgery. And the surgery is like very scary, and it's still kind of like a new surgery. Voice training is definitely one of the biggest things, I think, for me. That was the biggest hurdle for being able to pass. I felt like I wasn't able to pass until I was able to get my voice to a feminine range. Even once I did, I didn't realize that it had gotten there. And it took like a whole bunch of people telling me that my voice was feminine and that I was passing. And I didn't believe them at first for a long time. But yeah, I mean, over time, you just start to see it and you start to hear it yourself. And it's a really great feeling.
I know Kelly and I have both been kind of playing around with it, trying to start something. And I know that for me, I feel like when I try to do it, it just doesn't sound like me because I'm so used to the other voice, and it sounds like I'm faking it, So your voice is amazing, Madison. Yeah. Oh. Of course, Seth, you have the advantage that with guys, the hormones really help with that, right?
My voice has definitely changed over the years. Again, I'm in the same boat with Madison. You don't really, or you, Carrie, you don't really notice the changes until somebody says, "Oh, hey, your voice has really dropped," or it's it's a little bit high pitchy. And the only time I really tell is when I laugh, because I laugh like a 12-year-old boy. I've got that high pitch, when I get into a good giggle, it's a high pitch, Yeah.
Jue Meili, your voice sounds pretty good too. Have you done voice training to try and?
No, I just lift my voice to a little bit higher pitch. That's all. And when I talked about voice feminization surgery at one of the other support group meetings, they told me, "Hey, you don't need any voice feminization surgery. You talk like a female now." But I say, no, this is my fake voice. So I want to have the surgery so I don't need to fake it anymore.
So how much of these changes is really necessary for us? And I have a thought what the answer might be on that, of course, but I'm curious to hear what you all say.
I'll share a little bit about where I started. I mean, I started hormone therapy about 3 years ago. I waited till I was about 43. And again, most of that was fear-based barriers. When I started hormone therapy, I was following, I do follow a lot of trans folks on Instagram, and I've made those connections with, outside people and built relationships. And I think one of the largest things for me was I didn't want to start getting any facial hair or any other body hair until I had top surgery. I just felt for me, and for the people that are gender fluid and they have facial hair, body hair, breasts, like I'm whatever you feel comfortable in. I'm going to support those people. I love people in general. For myself, though, I didn't want my body to change while I still had breasts. So I really put it out to the universe, like, oh, I want to get facial hair. I want to be able to pass, but I didn't want any changes to happen until I felt comfortable in my own skin. So when I had my top surgery, it was almost like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. And I really started to accept the changes that my body was going through. And
the weight was lifted off your chest.
Yeah. 6 pounds of it. So yeah, when you get into, connecting your emotional and mental self with your new physical self, it really is a whole new experience. And now that I'm happy in my own skin and I've made the physical changes along with the mental and emotional changes, I'm now allowing my body to go through those other changes, right? So the facial hair is starting to come in. I get a little hairy chest and my belly looks hairy, and so now I'm engaging in those changes, and I'm I share it with the kids because I do have some kids. I don't physically share it with the kids, but on social media, I am sharing my journey with other people. And so I kind of go through the different stages of my mental health and my emotional, how I'm accepting the changes, whether my mood's changed or, I think it's important that we're able to share that part of the process because it's huge. I mean, some people get into transitioning and can't handle it mentally or emotionally. It's a lot. It's a journey you definitely need to be ready for. And it's one of the things that, it took me 43 years to get there, but I can't express how happy I am. And for me, that's important. And the kids that I've been dealing with now, they're younger. I got kids that are 5, 6, 7 years old. They know exactly who they are. And I want to be there to support them because I don't want to see them go 43 years in a state of mind and a state of mental health that is dark. We can avoid all that as long as we're supporting them now. So
Jue Meili has got to have the record for us in this panel, right? 73 years or 72, I suppose, when you transition, right, Jue Meili?
Oh, yes. But actually, I did some of the groundwork before that time. In 2005, when my ex-girlfriend and I went to Buffalo for shopping, I had my ears pierced. And I started wearing her earrings because I did not want the holes in my ears to close up. So I have had earrings since 2005. And then I went for eye bags removal surgery beginning of 2019. And also I started on laser removal for the body hair. I didn't have much chest and back hair, but mainly to remove armpits hair and leg hair and the bottom hair. And my legs are now hair-free, much better than a lot of cis women who still have to shave their legs. And I went for electrolysis treatments. And I just finished my 77th hour of treatment last Wednesday. And I still have some more to go in the next year or two. But now I'm down to only once every 3 or 4 weeks for the electrolysis treatment for my lip and chin hair. And then, as I said just now, my final goal, while I'm doing all this, my final goal after 75, for now, I want to do my breast implant surgery week after next. Next year, I want to do my voice feminization surgery. And then maybe end of next year or early year after next, I want to do my final vaginoplasty gender affirming surgery. And all these things I'm doing to pass as a female and to become a female is because my goal is when I reach 75 years old or just over, and I finish all my surgeries, I want to become a 75-year-old senior model. That's why I'm doing all this work to try to arrive at my final goal.
I think you're a shoo-in.
Great. I love that. A lot of people, oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. If you got something, go ahead, Madison.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think a lot of people, when they start transitioning, is that they sort of expect or they want everything to happen all at once, but it's really just like taking it one step at a time, like doing these little hurdles, getting like facial hair removed as like one sort of big achievement, and like getting your first surgery, your first gender affirming surgery. There's like just a lot of these little steps, and with each one you sort of get closer to feeling like yourself and feeling more comfortable. And then I'm sort of at that stage where I'm comfortable enough to be able to take my time with the rest of the steps that I have planned. Like I don't feel like I'm in as much of a rush anymore. And it's a really great feeling not to feel like I want to get so many things. It's very like flustering. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. It's good to just remember that you need to take things one step at a time, and not to expect that once you take your first hormone replacement therapy pill, you're going to wake up the next morning as the next gender.
Wouldn't that be nice?
If only it's that easy.
Yeah, it's something that kind of everyone has said, kind of touched on, but part of passing for me is more, it's for me mostly, there is a safety aspect of it. Although for me, it's always been my body image never matched what I saw in the mirror. And in a lot of cases, the work that I've done to pass and the work that I still have to do is more to match, more to align my body image with the reality. I used to hate looking in the mirror, couldn't stand it. Now I don't mind. Sometimes I smile and go, you know, I'm me now. I'm doing this for me mostly. The outward image that other people see doesn't matter to me as much as what I see. Does that make sense? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
100%. You have me, I'm tearing up. You know, I think when you and Carrie were in town and we did a little video, that was one of the things that, you know, we talked about was, for years I've been trying to do mirror work through a spiritual advisor, and I'm like, I can't look in a mirror, and she couldn't understand why.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, I continue to tell her, like, when I look at my reflection, that's not who I see. It's completely different person. And so I totally get that, and it takes so much work to, you know, grow into yourself and be able to look at your reflection and say, you know what, you are amazing, and you are, you know, your appearance and your everything about you is valid. And it takes so much work mentally, emotionally, and physically to get there. So I appreciate you sharing that, because it's a lot.
Yeah, I think self-confidence plays a huge role in transition as well. Like even just like trying to force yourself to be confident. I did that a lot in college when I was sort of just starting my transition publicly, where if I was walking down the hallway at school and I was feeling very dysphoric, or like I was feeling like very masculine, or like people were staring at me, one of the tricks that I would do is I would just like straighten up my posture, hold my head up high, and tell myself confident things like, I'm beautiful, I look great today, anything that would like get my confidence up. And it made a huge difference over time. And I highly recommend anyone to just try forcing yourself to be confident, and you'll see that it'll lead to like actual confidence.
I think that's so
Yes.
true, Madison. Yeah, we probably all would agree with that, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Confidence is something other people can see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 It irradiates off of you.
A couple of times early in when I was coming out publicly, right? And Kelly and I would just go shopping and we'd both be dressed femme. And like, absolutely, it makes such a difference. I'm like, I know that I'm getting tagged as trans or not female, but just having the confidence totally changes things. I may not be tagged less, but it doesn't matter, right? Because I can just be me, and being me, I'm fine with that. And if I'm fine with it, it doesn't matter what other people think, right?
Yeah, it's really admirable. I follow somebody on Instagram. I don't know if you've heard of them, Rain Dove Model. They're like a gender fluid person, and they post a lot of pictures of themselves with like very masculine clothing, or like presenting as male or presenting as female, just depending on like what they feel like during that day. And part of me feels like a little jealous of the fact that they can do that and like do it so like boldly, and it just like gives it, their confidence sort of gives me confidence in wanting to like just go out and wear whatever I want on whatever day and feel okay doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I first came out last year, I was terrified for the first 6 months after I came out. I was afraid that people would say behind my back that, oh, he's just a man dressed up as a woman. Especially those people who knew me from before, like the supers at my condo or the concierge. And then this cashier at Shoppers Drug Mart, she kept calling me sir because she knew me from before, even though I was dressed in female wear. And eventually I had to correct her. Then when I went for my ultrasound, the technician came out and yelled out, Mr. Jue Meili, because my health card still shows as male. And then, so I was terrified. I was filled with anxiety for the first 6 months about coming out and the process of coming out. But then after HRT treatment and my doctor giving me the sex gender marker letters to change my gender to female on my driver's license and health card and passport. And also I got a lot of support from these other meetup group meetings. They gave me so much support that eventually I started gaining confidence day by day, but it took several months. But now I am fiercely proud to announce myself as a trans woman. In fact, I hand out a small piece of paper to everyone I meet saying, I am a trans woman, 73 years old, and I identify myself as a lesbian. This is how you pronounce my name. You can also watch a video interview of me by typing Jue Meili on the Google search. So now I am very comfortable going out as a woman. But I must admit, in the first 6 months, it was a terrifying experience.
Mm-hmm. I get this sense that it's getting easier, though. You all agree, right? That people are starting to understand and get educated. And I feel like it's getting a little bit easier to be out there. And when you say to somebody like Jue Meili did that, no, it's she, her, they go, oh, okay. And away it goes, right?
I just want to really quickly touch on that because, one of the things, when we're talking about passing, what about being employed somewhere? And for myself, I was employed somewhere and then decided to transition, right? So everybody knew there that I was a she, and the fear of coming out at work, even though I had the acceptance part with family and friends, it's like coming out all over again. It's scary. You don't know what your workplace is you don't know, like, there's no policies and procedures posted. Like, I had to make a phone call to HR and say, hey, listen, this is what's happening. And they're like, oh yeah, we have plenty of people that are transitioning. And I was like, really? Where are they? So it's the fear. The fear has, and I think some people have paved that path for us over the years. You know, like the kids I deal with, for example, I am their walking billboard. You know, and we've had these conversations every single day. And you know, when we discussed going back years ago, when I came out, Ellen wasn't out, RuPaul Drag Show, there was no celebrities, like it was nothing. I didn't know that you could identify as a trans person. Otherwise, I think I would have thought about it years ago. But as things slowly started to appear and people were coming out and there was TV shows and movies, I started to have something to relate to. And as I started to relate, then I started putting in the effort to say, oh, hey, this is who I am. This is who I want to be. And so, but yeah, coming out at work and having that transition period of going into work as someone new, that was scary. It was super scary. And I did it and nobody cared. It was so crazy. I mean, it's all, so, you know, earlier when I talk about you have to be mentally and emotionally prepared for this journey, there's so much that goes into it. It's not just waking up, like Madison said, popping a pill and, you know, waking up and you're in your new body. There's so much that needs to go into it. And, you know, the fear, we need to unleash the fear. I think that, you know, and things are getting easier. People are educating themselves. People want to learn. You know, I have schools that reach out to me every day, different organizations. Hey, how can we implement this? Can you bring your training in here? How do we, you know, provide trans care? And how do we, you know, like, what do pronouns really mean? Like, all of these things are starting to come to the surface, and it's not going to change unless we help change it. So we have to continue to be that voice and make change.
Even though I pass most of the time, like out in public, I'm still very open about being transgender and making sure that people know, because I think that exposure to trans people is very important for them to learn that we're out there, that we exist. So I totally agree with that.
It's a question that somebody actually gave to me, but they were talking about passing and clothing, and if it was okay to have lazy days. You know, do we have to be on all the time and on point? You know, as a trans woman, do we always have to wear dresses, or can we just wear track pants some days and just relax, right? You know, Seth, you're a guy now. You can slob it out. Nobody cares, right? But right. Is it okay to have lazy days? Just go
Absolutely.
Without makeup? And
yeah, I think it can be pretty stressful to have to wear makeup every single day, unless it's something that you're like really, really passionate about. Also, I think that finding the right clothes that suit your body type is very important, because I think a lot of people will buy clothes that they like, that looks good, like when they're holding it, but then when they have it on, it doesn't suit their frame. And so yeah, it's really important to find something that will actually like suit your body type. Yeah, but it's totally okay to wear like sweatpants. I wear sweatpants and stuff out in public all the time. And if I'm just feeling like super lazy and I have like messy hair, I don't have my makeup on, and I don't feel dysphoric at all on that day. If it's a day that I'm feeling extra dysphoric, because there are days where it's worse than other days, then I'll put my makeup on. But if I'm feeling kind of whatever, don't really care what I look like, I need to go out and do some grocery shopping, just going to throw on a sweater and some sweatpants and do my thing.
what does a lazy day look like for you, Seth?
For me, well, recently, just boxers, right? You know, like for 43 years, I haven't been able to walk around without my shirt on. And that for me has created a new level of comfort for me. And I had to start around the house first before I actually went outdoors to do it. You know, my kids, they don't care. I've got, you know, 3 boys. 2 of them are teenagers. One's 25. And they love the fact that I love myself so much, you know. We were talking about mirror work earlier. One day I was in the washroom, my wife got out of the shower, and I was, brushing my teeth and then, doing the whole gel thing. And I was having that conversation with myself in the mirror, and she's like, are you talking to yourself? And I'm like, yeah, man, I am looking good today. I had that new level of confidence that we were talking about earlier. And man, it's taken me 46 years to get there, but it feels so good. And, there's some days where I don't care what I'm wearing. It's just, once you're at that new level of happiness, things change. And again, it don't matter what you're wearing at that point. It's just a new level of mental health and, the way you treat yourself, and just makes me happy. It makes me happy.
Quick show of hands here. So who all here has looked in the mirror and said, I like what I see?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes I'll do the finger guns and think it myself.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, I do the whole, and it's only because, I'm going into year 3. So it's finally starting to come in, and it's that next level for me. Madison was saying earlier, it's just like, it can be a slow process and you have to understand the process. And, I follow a lot of people online where it's 6 months and they got a full beard. And I'm like, why does that, why don't I wake up like that? But I realize that everything that I'm going through, I'm sharing with people. So as much as I wanted to wake up one day and just be Seth and not have to go around telling people that I'm transgender, I feel like it's so important. And I feel like at this point in my journey, I've saved a few lives and I've changed a few lives by identifying as trans and sharing that part of me with other people. And I feel like, again, that's how change is going to happen is we're educating people. There's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen, a lot of relearning. And for the most part, people are willing to put in that work nowadays. So I'm hopeful.
It really does affect all of us a little bit differently too. And I think that's important to recognize too. And so we can't all expect, like Madison said with the pill, to suddenly, we're going to do this and we're going to transition, no problem, right?
Everybody transitions at different pace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This might be TMI, but like for me, because I feel more non-binary, I'm not feeling like I don't feel like a guy, but I don't totally feel like a woman either. I'm somewhere in between. And for me, going on hormones for hormone therapy, I was actually concerned about growing breasts because I wasn't sure that was going to be something I wanted. I've since found it very affirming actually in myself. And so that's a good thing. But, and Kelly, again, if it's TMI, but, like Kelly's like, how come I don't have what you got? Right? It happens differently for all of us, right? Here's me who didn't really want it. And now I got, stuff going on and Kelly wanted it and it's not there, right? So
if you don't want them, just give them to me.
I think whatever you're comfortable with is totally valid. Like there are trans women who don't get bottom surgery, and that's totally valid. You can be a woman and have a penis, and there's nothing wrong with that. Same with like a man who has a vagina. That's totally fine. Like if you're comfortable with that part of your body, it doesn't make you any less of a woman or any less of a man.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important to remember too.
For sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. One of the discussions that Carrie and I have had a number of times is the spectrum on. I'm totally girl, but I didn't know that non-binary existed, so it wasn't an option because I simply wasn't aware of it. And then I kind of scratched my head after I met Carrie. I said, look at that. There's another option there. It's like, no, I'm a girl. the world still kind of acts very binary, though. I mean, passing is not even a safety thing, probably just being a curiosity, getting stares and whatever. I just want to fly under the radar and just kind of be.
I think you notice people staring when you're more aware of other people.
Yeah.
Because I think when I'm out in public, I'm often like staring at other people who are like in the mall, and I don't mean to do it, but like they'll like catch my attention if they're wearing like a nice sweater or something, and I don't mean to be like rude by staring at them. And I think that's another thing that people should remember, is that people just stare at people. It's, I think, human nature, and you shouldn't automatically assume that they're staring at you because you're transgender or because you stand out in some other sort of way. People just look at people.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I enjoy stares. When in summertime, I dress up like in a really short athletic pants skirt and tight t-shirt and this tight top. And then I went out with my client for dim sum lunch. And the patrons at the other tables were all staring at me. And my long, well-toned muscle legs and nails and painted nails. And the husbands kept staring what the wives told the husbands not to stare anymore at me. So I enjoy all these stares from men and women alike. But I just want to touch on one more point about passing, which is a big challenge for most of the trans people, is the cost of passing. All the different things we do cost money. And lots of people don't have the savings to do that. And I'm lucky in the sense that when I was a kid, I was exceedingly poor. And so I've always been conscious of saving money. And that's why I've been able to do all those things like laser, electrolysis, eye bag removal, and the breast implant surgery. And the biggest cost would be going to Korea for my voice feminization. And then luckily, OHIP covers the bottom surgery. But I was looking at also monthly costs of eye and face moisturizing creams. They cost money too. Probably they cost about $50 a month. And then when I looked at all the costs, I totaled up the cost for me in the last 10, 20 years until my voice feminization surgery. The total cost runs to about almost $50,000. So it's a huge obstacle for a lot of trans people to be able to do that. But luckily, I have been a saver throughout my whole life. I don't even go out to buy coffee or tea from Tim Hortons or whatever. I make my own tea at home. I am a very miserly person. I watch for sales at grocery stores to buy perhaps a package of 10 chicken drumsticks for only $4 or $5. And I really save and scrimp, and every single penny I could save, I scrape up for my surgeries and so on. So I understand and I sympathize with other trans people who haven't done that and they cannot afford to carry on some of the transitioning costs that they want to do.
It's insane to me that facial feminization surgery isn't covered by OHIP. They think it's just
cosmetic.
Yeah, cosmetic.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely wrong, because a lot of people can have like really big chins, really obvious chins, or like big forehead brows. I thought early on when I first started my transition that I would need facial feminization surgery, specifically like with my chin area. Luckily, the hormones kind of helped round everything out, and I don't feel quite as much as like I need it anymore. But yeah, that could be a really expensive surgery to get.
Yeah, I know this trans
necessary.
woman. She went down to New York for face feminization surgery and for voice feminization surgery. She told me it cost her $80,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy enough if there was just electrolysis covered. You know,
I know.
even
too.
that, like Jue Meili saying 77 treatments, and if it's like $100 or more a treatment, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
Actually,
even for,
yeah, it cost me so far around $5,000 for the electrolysis. And I figure I have to spend another $5,000 in the next 2 years to complete the total electrolysis treatment.
I'm in the process of booking my sexual reassignment surgery, and it's insane that they don't cover the hair removal portion of that. You can either get the surgery without getting any hair removal and then have a chance of having hair growing inside of your vagina for the rest of your life, or you can pay yourself out of pocket to get the hair removed permanently in that area, which hurts like crazy, both the wallet and just in general. And yeah, it blows my mind that part isn't covered. Getting hair removal done for a surgery isn't covered.
Yeah, I agree with you, because with my laser treatment, all my leg hair and the black color hair in my private parts are all gone, but the white hair still grow. Penis and the balls. And so, as you said, I would have to get electrolysis on those parts before my final surgery in the future.
Yeah.
So there's a pro tip for people, right? Go and get your IPL or your laser treatment before your hair starts to turn gray.
Yeah, do it early.
Right.
I have blonde hair, and yeah, so I've had to get electrolysis pretty much everywhere, like on my face, and it takes so much longer than laser. Laser is like so much quicker. Electrolysis is one hair at a time, like 10 seconds per hair. And they stick you with like a little needle. It sucks.
Yeah, that's right. I have had 10 laser treatments, 11 laser treatments over the course of the last 2.5 years, but except for the COVID period when everything closed down. And as I say, all my leg hair is gone. But the white hair on my private parts still keep growing. So all the black hair are gone.
Well, I can give testimony. IPL, I spent $100 on an IPL machine off of Amazon and worked like heck on my legs, and it did an amazing job. So, there's a cheaper way to do it.
I bought one of those, and I didn't see it make any difference for me.
It's
like one of those little handheld laser machines, right?
Yeah. It took a long time and a lot of work.
It didn't do anything for me.
And Seth's sitting there going like, I don't have to worry about this. This is why trans women are so jealous of trans guys. It's a little easier going the other way, right? Don't let me belittle it. It's still hard, but
No, I think it's more difficult for the trans men in terms of the surgeries they have to go through for the final transformation. It's a lot harder for them. For the trans women, it's just a simple bottom surgery, but for the trans men, it's a lot more difficult and a lot more complicated kind of surgery, I think.
Yeah. We were kind of touching on the other question that was kind of given to me, and that was relating to the intersection between beauty and passing, right? Like, I'm just going to read this part, right? I think it would be interesting to talk about the intersection of beauty and passing, as I feel that people say they want to pass, but they actually mean they want to be pretty. And, when we think about the world in general and sort of the advertising to women and all of the things that are thrown at you, this is what you're supposed to look like. You need to buy this so that you can look nice, right? How do you feel about that intersection between us wanting to pass, and so we have to kind of do certain things to do that, and then this whole massive marketing thing that is driving this beauty industry?
It's kind of a dysfunctional part of society, isn't it? I mean, in a sense that women have been held to a standard that is less practical or achievable in general anyway. And so that's something I've struggled with, and something my mom and I have talked about it a number of times too. It's like entering into the woman's world doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be enculturated into the beauty standards that all women are measured against unfairly, unnecessarily. One of the advantages I have of being an older woman is you can get away with some stuff as an older lady.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, yeah. I think if I transitioned when I was 18, being a 6 foot tall, 200-pound 18-year-old girl would have been more difficult. But now I'm just a big old farm girl from Saskatchewan, so that's whatever. But yeah, men aren't held to the same unrealistic standard. Well, actually, you know what? That's not fair. That's not entirely true, is it? With the fitness industry. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of go through the same thing, right? I mean, I had gastric bypass surgery 2 years ago. Last year I had top surgery. So I've done a lot of work on my own body. But again, a lot of the weight that I was carrying for years was because of my identity. I wasn't living in my true self. And so I really, when I, a couple of years ago, when I sat down and really put the focus on me, I started to change my lifestyle, started to focus more, and it had nothing to do with, the fitness industry or what an average man looks like. It just was something I was doing for me. And at this point in the game, I'm just kind of happy with how far I've come, because some trans people don't make it to today, and we do have to look at the seriousness of it. And it's not always fun and, light. And, there's been some really dark days for me. And I have compared myself with plenty of people. But I'm past that. I'm just focusing on me. And, I try to change with the times and educate as many people as I can to make it safer for me and safer for other people like me. That's the way I look at it. So a little different from the female end of it, moving forward to the male parts of it, right? We have, we're all on the same page, but there's the way we look at it differently.
Jue Meili, you say you want to be a model, so you're going to be diving right into that whole fashion and beauty industry.
Not exactly. I don't believe in the beauty industry, especially makeup. I don't believe in their makeup at all, because you just think of Jennifer Lopez without makeup. She wouldn't look like Jennifer Lopez. So I was thinking that I don't need makeup, especially one of these days I will attend one of those fundraising galas that my ex-girlfriend runs. And I will go and join these galas. And I think I will outshine a lot of the cis women there, especially those at my age. And I will go in without makeup, with only lipstick. And I will look like a natural beauty, and I'll be proud of that. So I don't agree with the beauty industry at all. There's so much makeup on the women. My ex-girlfriend used to say, putting on too much makeup every day makes the female face grow older faster. And I think I agree with that. And why put on makeup if you can pass naturally with good features? And I see all those TV personalities, the announcers on TVs, those ladies, they have so much makeup on. It looks terrible to me.
Yeah. It's not just makeup. I find that the like phone filters and beauty filters are a huge problem too, and they can really damage people's self-confidence in themselves. And I remember early on, I would use a lot of Snapchat filters that like made my chin, because a lot of the Snapchat filters, they automatically make your chin smaller and like your head smaller to make you look more feminine. And I think that's really emotionally damaging when I would see the pictures from my Snapchat compared to like pictures I'd take normally on my regular phone camera. The difference, I hated the way that I looked. So I stopped using Snapchat. I stopped using any filter that would affect the shape of my face just for my own sanity, so I wouldn't go crazy.
I have to say though, I mean, I have used some of those filters just for fun, and maybe I'm an exception in that, but I love it because I actually find it rather affirming, because I can look at that and say, that looks like how I feel inside me, right? And I know it's not the reality, right? And maybe that's the difference, is I don't try to kid myself that this is, this is what I can look like in real life, but it definitely makes me feel a lot more like I'm looking at me sometimes.
I did that a little bit too. I went to what was called Face App, right?
Mhm.
And before I transitioned, I used it a couple times to kind of like, is this possible or not? And it wasn't particularly realistic, but it was affirming. However, after I transitioned, it was like, and I started becoming more comfortable with myself. I went through my Photos app and basically got rid of all those pictures because they weren't realistic. And I started becoming, I kind of fell in love with myself for the first time. Not because I'm any sort of raving beauty, but just because I was finally like the body image thing. I started matching up. It started working. So I mean, it helped me a little bit, but I can see how damaging it can be too, because you can develop a body image that is unrealistic as well. I think ultimately you have to really fall in love with yourself, I think.
I was using that same app for the longest time, and just put in that facial scruff. And then I went and did a factory reset on my phone because it was acting up. And it was kind of like that last stage of, okay, my phone's, and so I did the factory reset. And when I went to re-add that app, even though I put in all the work, it was still fun. I went to re-add the app, and that version of adding that facial scruff was no longer free. So I went through a meltdown moment where I was like, what am I going to do? This is how I see myself. I need to take photos like this. So I went through that, exactly what you're talking about. But again, I went through that stage of throwing that filter on, connecting with myself, doing a little bit of mirror work, saying, this is how I see my reflection. And even though I don't have the app anymore and I have a little bit of my scruff coming in on my own, I'm at that point where I love myself now. I put in the work and I use the filter for a little bit, but now I don't need it. I look at myself and I see my reflection, and I am in love with me, but it took a few alterations and, some different steps to get here, but I feel that 100%.
I have to ask, do you think this is really any different than any cis person that just wants to do things to make themselves feel better about who they are, right? Like for women, if that means part of that beauty, or for men, if it means the fitness, right? Is being trans, and although it seems unusual because we're looking at a gender that is not that assigned at birth, is it really any different, really?
Not really. I don't think so.
We all invest in our body, our mind, our physical self in the same way. It's just that most of us have labels, right? People have labeled us, but in all essence, we're the same people. We're all human, and that's the way we should be. That's the way we should be looking at things.
Absolutely. Awesome. We are at time, so we wrap it up. I'm just going to give each of you just a moment, maybe to, if you have a last thought or something you'd like to wrap up, something maybe you learned tonight. Go ahead. Why don't we start with you, Jue Meili?
Yes, just want to mention that every morning and every evening, and sometimes after badminton in the middle of the day when I shower, I would wash my face with some soap. I love to use Camay soap because of the smell. And then after washing my face, I would put on the eye and face anti-wrinkle moisturizing creams. And after I put on those creams, I look into the mirror and I say, you are a beautiful woman. And that's how I love myself.
Awesome. Awesome. Seth?
I'm just, I'm grateful for moments like this. I think it's an opportunity for us to share with other people who we are, the trials and tribulations of getting to where we need to be, and realizing, it does take work, whether you're cis or trans, or it don't matter how you identify. Everybody needs to put in the work to feel that sense of belonging and happiness, and everything that we talked about today is 100% truth, so thank you for sharing this opportunity with me.
Thank you for being part of it too. Yeah. Madison.
I have a story that I kind of wanted to share, an experience that I had. I went to get some food at a burrito place a while ago, and it's kind of funny. When I walked in, the guy behind the counter said, "Hello, miss, what can I get you?" And I ordered my food and I moved off to the side. And then a mother and her young daughter came in. She had like her hair up in a bun. They honestly both looked identical. They had the same colored hair. It was really, really cute. But she walked up to the cash register and the guy behind the counter said, "Hello, mister," and misgendered this mother with her daughter. He apologized immediately, but it made me think, like, people make mistakes with gender for like literally anybody. So I think it's good to remember not to take it too personally if it happens to you, I guess. It's sort of my experience that I had. It made me really think.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Kelly.
Yeah, well, I mean, love yourself in general anyway. It's a good way to live.
That takes so much work.
Oh yeah.
You have to surround yourself with people that love you as well. That can really...
Yes. Yeah, it's a very simple thing to say. It's a little harder to do.
I think if I could sum up what I think I've heard tonight, is as far as passing goes, you do what you need to do to affirm yourself, right? Just have confidence has definitely come out very strong tonight. And finally, just be yourself, whatever that means, right? Thank you, all of you, for being part of the Transform tonight. It's a very interesting conversation. And as always, I hope people find it interesting. And if you have comments or questions on this, if you comment below, we'll try and answer it. And if you have a comment to one of these guys, the guests, if they don't see it right away, we'll definitely pass it on to them and make sure that that we get a response from them. I think that's fair. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much for coming back.